Hi everybody and welcome back to a build video. My goodness, it's been a little while since I've done one of these. A lot's been going on in my life, so the uploads slowed down for a little bit for the last couple of months, but I'm hoping to get some more build videos out for you soon. So the concept for this build is for my 100 baby challenge. We've been in the old house for a while now, and I want something new, and Love Struck came out pretty recently, and so I wanted to make something in the new world, using a lot of the new stuff and in that kind of style. So that's the general inspiration today. Originally, I wanted to make it on a penthouse. Imagine, that would be so funny doing the 100 baby challenge in a penthouse, but unfortunately the penthouses are a fixed tile size, so even though you can technically make a penthouse a tiny home, you can't reduce the number of tiles that are used in a penthouse, so you can't actually make it a tiny home. It tells you that you aren't meeting the lot requirements. I think it probably fits within the spirit of a penthouse, but I was kind of hoping to bend the realism there a little bit and just have a 100 baby challenge in a tiny home on a penthouse. That'd be really funny. So unfortunately, we're not on the penthouse lot in Ciudad Enamorada, but we are still in the new world. We're just on a 30 by 20 lot, I think it was. One of the kind of mid-sized ones. The world itself, though, was really pretty. I've been enjoying exploring it. Honestly, though, the build items are kind of tricky to work with. I went back and forth a lot on the style of this build. I really wanted it to be similar to the other houses in the neighborhood, which I feel like kind of have almost a mission style, but none of the windows and doors in the Love Struck pack fit that style. And honestly, most of the items in the pack as a whole didn't fit under the game's mission category. So I was really confused by that. Ultimately, I ended up using a lot of base game doors and windows, as well as a big circular window from Wedding Stories. So I'm a little unsure what build style this pack was going for. But anyway, the other thing that's really annoying about this lot is that there's really tall buildings really close to it. So when you're trying to build, the camera keeps jumping around. It's hard to see in the speed build because everything's sped up and everything's jumpy. So I ended up moving to a 30 by 20 lot in Newcrest so I could just finish the build. But that was really annoying. It was a very unpleasant experience to build on that lot. So that was disappointing. I'm really pleased with this build though from like a personal growth perspective because I really went out of my comfort zone. I went with a style that I don't normally do. I really tried to make an interesting shape for the house. You'll even see I add like a really nice courtyard backyard area. Really trying to do something a little bit different and a little bit more visually interesting. You can see here that I'm messing with the windows a lot. I really went ham on the windows in this build, but I particularly like those rounded windows from the base game. I kind of like doing them in this tiered fashion. I don't know if that's a real thing. I don't know how realistic it is or is not, but I thought it looked pretty cool. I did actually have difficulty with the floor plan later because of the sheer number of windows I added, but it works out. Don't worry. Now for, in my opinion, the most fun part of the build, the backyard. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do here. I knew I wanted to have somewhat high fences to give it a bit of a sense of privacy, and I knew I wanted to use the new mosaic tiling from Love Struck, and that was about as far as I got. I ended up doing this fence from For Rent that's pretty high, but still kind of has that stone feel, and then some different height columns to round it out. I debated on the shape of the backyard because it felt just really massive, but I didn't really want to make it smaller because then it would be clipping through the windows, so I ended up filling in the space by adding a pool. Now, I'm sure you've heard by now, but we got rounded, curved pools now in the base game as part of the base game update that came out with Love Struck, which was incredible. But then on top of that, we got new pool trims in Love Struck. So I'm using one of them here, and I love how thick it is. Like, I have tried numerous times to recreate that style of pool trim with just tiling and Control F floor tiles in the past, but to have one that like automatically fits it and that works so well with curves, I was living. That's the best part to come out of Love Struck. Okay, that might be an exaggeration, but I really like it. Then I added that light up decal from Spa Day in the bottom of the pool, as well as some water jets to really just make the pool a feature of the backyard. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to play in this house. Next, onto the kids' play area. There's that tent from Dream Home Decorator that's like so helpful with their imagination skill, but it's really big, so I thought it made sense to go outside since we have an outside area now. And then I added the toddler slide for the movement skill, as well as the monkey bar for the kids. And then I wanted to do like a grill seating type area. I messed around for a bit with exactly how I wanted the outdoor kitchen to look like, and I ended up just doing sort of bare bones grill counter sink, and then adding some umbrella tables with chairs. I really wanted to do two, but it was looking kind of crowded, and I couldn't quite figure out two that looked like they matched without looking identical, and so I ended up just going with one and then adding in a picnic table. And then I got some lounge chairs, which is a classic for the pool, and I got the new Woohoo blanket from the Love Struck pack. back. It also functions as a picnic blanket, so that's part of the reason why it's going outside. But that's kind of a fun little detail to have. At this point, I had put it off for as long as I could, and I really needed to do it. I needed to make the floor plan for the inside. And my goodness, I set myself up with a challenge. My first thought was that these two like squares on either side could be bedrooms, and that really worked well for the kids' bedrooms since there are so many kids. I did 4 sets of bunk beds, and then 2 of the bunk beds have toddler beds on the bottom. So this is pretty much for all of the kids that aren't infants anymore. The infants are gonna go in Shasha's room, but this is the kids area. I gave them a desk that can sit 2 at a time because they don't ever all need a desk at the same time. And then I added a bunch of school projects for them to get their skills up. And then they get a big bathroom, big enough to have some toddler potties. So this is really like the kids wing of the house. Then here I was adding like a living room situation. I wanted to use some of the new furniture, but I really just did not think it fit in a way that made sense. So I ended up using some of the stuff from Dream Home Decorator, along with the couches from the Book Nook kit, and then that bookcase from the Crystal Creations stuff pack. It's kind of beige cozy, I like it. Next up was Shasha's room, and I really struggled with this one. I so wanted the big heart bed to be right up against the window in the center of the room. But the problem is that the room is just massive. There's not enough stuff to put in there. So I put the bed there, and then I kind of just was like, I'll deal with it later, and moved on to the kitchen. The kitchen is kind of serving as a hallway as well as obviously a kitchen. But then I also wanted like a dining room, and I couldn't figure out if the dining table needed to go on its own or if I could do a kind of bar stool situation, and I went back and forth a little bit on that. But I think it ended up looking nice. I went with sort of a beige and red color scheme. I'm using a lot of warm tones in this build. Next up is the entryway. It's a bit of a weird thing because it's a bit wider than an entryway I feel like usually is, but at the same time, it's too skinny to be anything else. So I tried to fill it in with like an umbrella rack, a coat rack, and that hallway table. And then here's also where I decided that I wanted to have a cat. I mentioned this a couple episodes ago in my actual like challenge videos. I mentioned that I wanted to have a pet in my 100 baby challenge that wasn't just a rodent. Now the problem with this is that a cat, dog, horse, whatever takes up a household slot, and it's really important in the 100 baby challenge to have as many household slots as you can. But honestly, like, this challenge is really old. We can bend the rules. I don't care. I was thinking about increasing the maximum household size to 9. That way we could have a cat. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So I think I'm gonna do it. So I added in the cat tree, and later I go through and add the rest of the stuff the cat needs. So while I've been rambling about cats, you may have noticed that I do have a wall that kind of goes through a window. Not fully, it's like right on the edge, but there's no other way that room was getting split up. So Shasha gets her own little room. She gets an ensuite bathroom, and then we have an infant slash play area, so that's where some more of the toddler toys went, as well as obviously the infant play mats. So everyone's taken care of. Then going back to the kids, I really wanted to use these new ceiling lights from the Love Struck pack to kind of give it a nice dreamy air. And then I wanted to use a lamp from the Love Struck pack in Shasha's room, but like they're all kind of big and bulky, and I wasn't sure. So I ended up taking the rose one and sizing it down, and I think that looks all right. Then I gave her some clutter on her nightstand. I don't do stuff like this very often in my 100 baby challenge because it's a bit utilitarian. Like, no one cares about the vibes as much as we care about the functionality, but it's fun every once in a while to do a little bit of clutter. So I gave her a notebook, I gave her a lamp. I put a phone and keys by the front door, by the way, in case you didn't notice. Obviously she gets her easel, some Love Struck art, and then I also gave her a really pretty plant lamp from the Blooming Rooms kit. And with that out of the way, it was time to go through and do all of the walls. Again, I used a lot of the wallpaper from the Love Struck pack because it does look really nice and has a lot of variety. That was one of the areas I was really impressed with, actually. Next, we gotta do the floors, but first things first, we have to make it a tiny home. So in case you don't know, you can fake a tiny home in The Sims by deleting all of the floors and then doing this trick with the walls where none of them actually fully connect to a room, and then adding like a little tile at the end one by one. And it's a great tool for stuff like this challenge where you need a big house, but the tiny home perks are super helpful. A downside is there's a lighting glitch that happens, especially around sunset and sunup, but it's so worth. Alright, now I just wanted to hop back in the game and give you one last little tour. Now I know there's no landscaping, but that's because I'm planning on moving the house to either Oasis Springs or Ciudad Enamorada. I haven't decided yet, but it's not staying in Newcrest. So I'm gonna wait to do the landscaping until I actually move it to wherever my family's gonna play in it, so that way I can make sure it blends in with the environment. Here's the outside. I think it came out pretty well. I think the roof is a really interesting shape. And then the backyard, my pride and joy. Now this tree here is gonna become Shasha's crystal tree, so imagine that that's a crystal tree for now. But we got this little sandbox for the kids to play in. Here, I'll change the lighting so that we can see it better. Little backyard picnic area and a pool. I think this is so cool. I would love to live in a house that had this kind of stuff. Then inside, we have our entryway with our cat stuff, our little living room, our toddler bathroom, and then our kids' room with the lights on top. Then on the other side of the house, we have the kitchen, pretty standard, pretty. Somewhat of a toddler's room, Shasha's room, where I really went hard with the prints. But you know what? It's really fun to live look at, honestly. And then her little bathroom. I'm happy with how this build came out. I can't wait to play with it, and I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a lovely day. Bye!